Okay, everyone, today we are going to talk about multiplying whole numbers and fractions together. Now, if you remember anything from adding, you will remember that it is very difficult to add whole numbers and fractions when you just have one or the other. Often we have to change them around. So before we get started, we're going to talk about how we can write whole numbers as fractions to make them a little bit easier to work with. So first of all, let's look at this. This is the same as one whole. Or another way to write that, if we count up the number of pieces, in this case it's divided into 8 pieces, so there's 8/8. Now those are pretty big numbers, so if we can, we want to simplify that. 8 and 8 can both be divided by 8, and so it becomes 1/1, 1 whole. So we can write a whole number as a fraction over 1, just like this. If we have one whole, we have 1 whole over 1 whole. That sounds a little bit weird, but actually it is a-okay. Now over here, we have 2 wholes. So once again, if we want, we can think about it as fractions first. So each of our wholes is divided into 2 sections. So this is in halves. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 halves. So this is the same as 4 halves. Oh, that can be reduced as well. That gives me 2 1/wholes, 2 wholes, or 2/1. So usually when you write a whole number, all you need to do is you need to add the line, and then the denominator is going to be 1. So for example, if I had 100, in order to change that into a fraction, I would write 100 over 1, 100 wholes. If I had the number 23, if I wanted to write that as a fraction, I'd do 23 over 1. Now, I could make it into a bigger fraction with a bigger denominator, but why would I bother? Why would I make more work for myself if I don't have to? So any number, let's say I have 2, write it over 1, now it's a fraction. So with that in mind, multiplying with whole numbers is actually quite simple. So let's try a few examples here. Here we go. Let's look at this first one. So we have 2 wholes times 1/3. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to write this as a fraction. Put the over 1 there. Now it's a fraction. So I multiply the numerators. I multiply the denominators. 2 times 1 gives me 2. 1 times 3 gives me 3. My answer is 1/3. How nice and simple is that? Well, it will get a little bit more tricky, so let's see what happens with this next one. Let's see, we have 12 times 2/5. So once again, to make this into a fraction, I draw my line and I write my denominator. There we go, nice and simple. So now I have 12 times 2, which gives me 24, and 1 times 5 gives me 5 on the bottom. Uh-oh, I have a problem. My numerator is way too big and my denominator is way too small. This is an improper fraction. Whenever I have that, I always have to change that back into a mixed number. So I think about my mixed numbers rules, and I'm going to do some division. I do 24 divided by 5. 5 fits into 24. 4 times. 5 times 4 gives me 20. I minus those off. I have a remainder 4. So my remainder is 4/5. There we go. So my answer to this question isn't this big improper fraction. It is actually 4 4/5. There we go. Do not forget to do that, grade 4s. It will be tempting to leave your answers, but you never leave an improper fraction. Now let's look at this last one. Same sort of ideas, some different numbers here, and there might be some more things for us to do. So we have 10 times 3/15. I need to change that to a fraction. Now I have 10/1 as my fraction, and I'm going to multiply them out. Ooh, but I see something we can do to make this easier on us. Look at here. I have a 10 and I have a 15. I could cross-reduce those. So over here, I'm just going to write that as a fraction for a minute. I have 10/15. I think, what fits into both 10 and 15? 5 does. Okay, so I divide by 5, and now I have 2/3. So that means the 10 became a 2, the 15 became a 3. Now I have some smaller numbers to work with. So there we go. 2 times 3 gives me 6. 1 times 3 gives me 3. Now, again, we have that improper fraction. We better reduce it, and we better change it into a mixed number. So let's do that first. So 6 over here, 3 over here, and I do my division. 3 fits into 6 2 times, exactly 2 times. So this number is equal to 2 wholes. There we go. So sometimes when you multiply whole numbers, you end up with a whole number as well. Sometimes you end up with fractions. Give it a try, grade 4s. I have utter faith in you.